Hi, this is Mary Kurek with Frontrunners Innovate. And as you know, we like to bring you interesting people from around the world who are, well, let's just call them the world's problem solvers, okay? And we call them in another business term, innovators and, people who have solutions. And we have a wonderful example of that today from Israel. And this is Ethy Levy. And Ethy is a founder of Impact Innovation Israel, one of her many titles, as I'm finding out. Fund manager at Kinnerect Impact Ventures. And also what we really want to talk about later too, that's fascinating to me, is she's co-founder and Israel's CEO of the Bridge Hub, which I believe is headquartered out of Australia. Am I right, Ethy? Yeah. Okay. This is a young lady who has a steeped in background in innovation and impact and fundraising and technology, solutions out there, and is also global herself. And along with being a mentor of young girls in STEM and an advocate for women entrepreneurs. So we want to give you a great big hug and a very big welcome as a woman myself who's an entrepreneur, and say welcome to Frontrunners Innovate. And Ethy, we want to start with your background. I mean, you've got such a long and illustrious background of being in innovation and technology and startup spaces. And I noticed in your LinkedIn profile, there was some mention of government, that you had some background in government as well. So bring us from there up to speed, where you came from and where we're at now.
Sure. So first of all, thank you for the opportunity. It's great to be able to take part in this series. So from really early on, I wanted to be part of something a bit bigger than just my own activity, and that's the reason I joined the government. So I spent about 20 years in the Israeli diplomatic service, dealing with international trade and investment. So part of this role was being posted overseas as trade commissioner. So I lived in different countries, Eastern Europe, Eastern Asia, and then Australia. So very.
But you're from Israel originally, so Israel is your home.
I actually grew up in France and immigrated to Israel when I was 19. So.
We always
say that when you're an immigrant, then you're already you know how to take risk and start new things. So it's a very good background for being an entrepreneur and for innovation. And in my roles as trade commissioners, I was always looking for projects that will have an impact on communities. And I think that's one of the key projects that shifted a bit my career into agri and food and this space of sustainability was a project we did in Thailand, where I initiated a demonstration farm for agricultural technologies. So we brought Israeli technologies and trained Thai farmers, and it became a regional project where farmers from Cambodia and Myanmar and Vietnam would come and be exposed to new technologies, and it had a huge impact. And then I realized that technology could really make a difference, and we just need to make it, available to as many people as possible. And that kind of guided the rest of my career. And in Australia as well, big part of my activity was around water, which is a big issue in Australia. But also efficiency of the agricultural sector. But as trade commissioner, the beautiful thing is that you deal with all types of technology. One day it's nanotechnology and missiles, the other day it's agriculture, and then medical devices. You're there to help the Israeli industry, no matter what the sector is. And that gives you a really good understanding of cross-pollination between technologies, and that's really what excites me. I see sometimes a technology in mining and I can adapt it for a totally different sector and vice versa. Yeah. So that was, the background. And as you mentioned, the Bridge Hub, when I left Australia and I left the Israeli government, I had a very strong connection with Australia, with the people there, and wanted to really bring a bit of the Israeli DNA into the ecosystem. And with two amazing partners, we launched the Bridge Hub. which is an innovation hub for agri-food, water, and sustainability. And the idea was really to connect, so to create the infrastructure for innovation by bringing the different parties together. And that's a big problem in Australia, being a federal country. The states are competing. Sometimes, government and universities and the private sector, they don't really communicate properly. Mm-hmm. And the Bridge Hub idea was really to bring all those parties together in order to solve problems. Mm-hmm. And we spent about 2 years building the infrastructure, building the ecosystem, bringing lots of examples from Israel and experts from Israel, mm-hmm. but also the goal was to commercialize technologies and to bring Israeli technologies to Australia and help them validate those technologies in a big market. Mm-hmm. And the idea behind the Bridge Hub was really impact. My two co-founders, Craig and Grant, they come from the impact world, from the impact investing world, and agriculture made lots of sense because there's an impact on society, there's an impact on the environment, there's an impact on our lives, so that was really, the starting point of my involvement with agri-food and mm-hmm. connecting globally the key players in that space.
When how old is the Bridge Hub now?
Bridge Hub is 3 years old.
Okay, so it really got cranked up right before the pandemic, didn't it?
Yeah, a year and a half before.
So I want to ask, and not just from the standpoint of the Bridge Hub, but all the other hats that you wear that you're currently involved in there in Israel. How has the pandemic impacted the entrepreneurial and innovation spaces there?
I think that we saw that in most of the countries at the beginning, there was kind of a slowdown. People didn't really know what to expect. So everyone was, in his room at his home with Zoom, but not taking too much risk, not starting new things, kind of stagnation. And then I think that we realized that, we might be stuck with that for a while and we should, move on. And then everything started again. Okay. In Israel, we saw amazing rounds of investments during that period. We saw lots of new startups being established or coming out of stealth. So yeah, it took a few months of figuring it out, but there was the data for the investment in Israel for the first quarter was released, and we broke the records in terms of investment into the Israeli ecosystem just for the first few months. So really amazing.
Can I ask you this? The funding, is it coming from Israel or is it coming from other areas of the world? Primarily.
Into the ecosystem?
Yeah.
It comes globally. There's lots of investment from the US, but also Japan are starting to invest heavily in the Israeli ecosystem. That's a major part of the investment, and obviously also Israeli investment, but not the largest part.
Okay. From the standpoint of what you were discussing about the Bridge Hub, I know it's early on in the life of the Bridge Hub, but you have such such a wonderful model that could be replicated in places, what I'm thinking, in Africa, in certain places in Africa where agriculture is their primary function of life. And have you all thought about, 5 years down the road, 2 years down the road, or whatever, what you could do with that model?
Sure. Every country and every ecosystem is different and has different needs. So the idea is to adapt the model to the geography. It's open for new geographies, definitely.
Well, I think what hits me is the fact that the best part of that model is that you're bringing people together. and from different entities. I guess don't understand that so much from being in the United States, but I definitely understand it from working with a lot of partners inside of Africa, in different areas of Africa, how challenging it can be to get any two parties to be on the same page. And so being able to explain it the way that you just did about what was going on in Australia and mentioning the different, I didn't even think about the university, the academic side of the house. Being able to get all those people to think about training and quality, control and, innovation in the technological parts that you can bring forward that actually is doable, inside of, maybe the most basic framework of how farming and agriculture happens. And then the export process and that sort of thing. I think probably the model could, as you move along, probably you're going to be tweaking it even more as you see things that need to be tweaked. But creating that kind of hub and creating the conversations that you are, I think is the most valuable part of what you're doing there. So yay. I mean, I can so see that moving.
Yeah, I think that, you mentioned Kinnerect Impact Ventures, which is a new VC fund that is in establishment. It also stems from an innovation hub in Israel, which is called Kinnerect Innovation Center, which is basically a sister hub for the Bridge Hub. Again, tapping into the connection between academia, industry, and the farming community. So Kinnerect Innovation Center was established by a group of 33 agricultural communities in Israel and the Academic College of Kinneret, who understood that in order to keep being relevant in terms of the Israeli agriculture, they had to adapt to new technology. They had to look 5 and 10 years forward and bring in innovation into that sector. And they joined together, established the Innovation Hub, and now establishing this fund really to turn a certain region of Israel into a global hub for R&D in agri and food, basically a living lab to trial new technologies. And I think that the pandemic really made the case for this type of initiative, because it's very difficult for a startup to fly to the US or to Australia, which is closed at the moment, to do a trial with a grower in that country. So what we're saying, we say, you know what, we have all the conditions here. We will run the trial for you, and we will share with you the results. And then you can decide if this technology is a good fit for you or not, and if it's worth the trouble of bringing them all the way to your geography. And again, it's learning and adapting to new needs that are emerging now with the pandemic and with the restriction on flying and the need for isolation in certain countries. So we see more and more multinational companies that are looking for those kind of solutions.
That's fantastic, and that's primarily or solely focused on agriculture.
It's agriculture, food, water, and sustainability. So in sustainability, you have energy efficiency as well. You have logistics, supply chain. Okay, I'm taking notes. I always do that. Oh, fantastic. Okay, so really the impact fund that you have that's associated with that you're running, that's where are you getting monies from government, mix of private and government funds? Is that what's grants? So we are raising capital at the moment. So I open, whoever is interested in those fields, we are, a specialized fund in this area. And Israel is a world leader in agri-food and water technologies. And the idea is really to raise capital from Israel and from overseas. We wanted to start with a regional commitment. So now we have that commitment and that investment from Israel, from the farming community, from the industry. And now we're starting to raise capital from overseas, including some large corporates that are in those areas and are strategic partners for us. And it's actually the benefit for investors in this fund is that they're exposed to the most advanced technologies early on. So they know what's going to come in 5 to 7 years. And this, exposure to the deal flow is really, really important to keep your edge if you're in that space. But it also the ability to support entrepreneurs that are in a very risky area, an area that takes long cycles. It's not like AI or cyber that in 2-3 years you can make an exit. And I think that it's very important to support entrepreneurs in that space. It's easy to go for the easy wins, but you need to invest. If you really want to create an impact, you need to invest in those spaces. Be a bit more patient, but it's really worthwhile.
Can you give me an example of some of the technologies that are kind of moving well in the hub there? I mean, that are situated already that maybe you guys are working with?
Sure. So one of the startup that's, I really like the founders, and it's usually starts with, the human component. They're actually 2 ranchers. They've been growing cattle in the north of Israel for many, many years. They also run ranches overseas. And they, saw what a hard work it is, and the income is not that high. And they wanted to try and improve the situation for ranchers. And they started using drones for their activity. And after many years of trials and lots of flights, they realized that the cows are actually reacting amazingly to the drone. So they've developed a technology that is actually doing the herding with a drone.
Wow.
Amazing. So it's autonomous drone done remotely. The cows are much more calm, so no stress. And they react beautifully to the drone. And it gives the farmer lots of spare time where he can, invest in his business, try and create new revenue streams. They had some farmers and ranchers from South Africa, that told them, you know what, I have to have this technology, because for me, it's very dangerous to go at night or to go out and move the cattle. Yes, I want this technology now. So I really, it's thinking differently. And it's also people that are coming from this space, and in a period of time of 3 months, they turn from ranchers into entrepreneurs with all the terminology of the startup world. It's brilliant to see their evolution.
It's brilliant. I love it. And you can apply that same sort of thought to some other aspects, not just, of ranching, but I could see that happening in other spaces. All right, say I brought somebody to you and I said, this is a person who's invented 3D technology with functional electronics attached. So it can 3D print something that's not static, that actually has functional electronics. What would you say to somebody like that as far as what applications you would see in your world?
Sure. So first of all, deep technology is an area where Israel is very, very active at. We have some brilliant companies and some brilliant funds that specialize in deep technology. So technologies that are really changing a sector, that are really, game changer in their area. And the beauty in Israel, it's really the degrees of separation. Statistically, it was measured, there's 1.6 degrees of separation in Israel, meaning that if I want to call the prime minister, I need to make 1.6
contact.
Actually, I can make 1 because he's a good friend, but but let's say that any random people in Israel, that would be the average. And that's why whenever I come across a technology which I think, wow, there's something here, I send 2-3 WhatsApp to some of my contacts, we brainstorm, and we immediately come with application, with relevant contacts, who's interested. And that's part of what we are doing as being connectors, as being people that are curious about technology. I think that without curiosity, we wouldn't be where we are.
That's right. Well, I think that person actually exists, who I just told you about. He's one of our league members, and he, I think, had ideas that his invention would live happily in the education space. I think mainly to inspire other students to take what he's done and move on with new, innovations. But, when you're talking about agriculture, I think about the fact that he has a contract with NASA, and I guess my assumption is NASA is using that tech to print parts in space. When you're talking about remote, that's about as remote as you get, is to be able to have access to fix things that otherwise would take you forever to get done. And in some of the remote places you're talking about, where Australia or Africa, maybe even some places in Israel, where you've got farmland that's way out in the middle of nowhere, and they would have to wait forever to get a part for a piece of machinery. How about being able to print it? And, in a matter of a day's time, possibly having, the part ready to be able to fix whatever it is you need to, and go on with, the very valuable hours you have in that day that you've got to create, something that means something to somebody. So I do see things like that. This is, it's good conversation to have. You've got a great network. I know you do, because I have one too, that's very diverse and it's global, and literally just about any problem or challenge you can come up with, you can find somebody that'll help you figure it out and solve it. I think this is awesome. So 2 questions to kind of end us up, and I had already gotten a little bit of a hint about one of them. What is ahead for any one of the 3 different things that you're doing currently? What's ahead for the Bridge Hub? What's ahead for the Impact Fund and the hub that you're working with there in Israel?
Well, actually, we didn't mention the most important one, which is in stealth mode. That's why you didn't see it on my LinkedIn.
Okay. Well, let's bring it up now.
That's actually a beautiful project which is called Infinity Fresh, which I'm running with an amazing female founder called Ayelet Carasso. And we are actually tackling the food waste issue at the farm. So we are developing a mobile processing system that will help farmer process, the fruits and vegetables that they're not able to sell, either because they're ugly, they're not perfect, or because they have overproduction, or last minute order was canceled. But these are fruits and vegetables that are perfectly fine in terms of their nutritional value, and we will be able to come to the farm, process it, turn it into highly nutritional ingredient, and help sell it to food producers. And during that process, not only saving food and saving lots of logistics, but also saving a huge amount of carbon emissions, which we hope to monetize on as well. So that's that's a passion project that I've been working on, and very excited about it. And beside that, the Impact Fund, which is in establishment, and we're in capital raise mode. So that's a very promising fund because of the specialization and the amount of experts that we have supporting the fund. So it's like multiplying the force and the brain behind the fund by hundreds with the access that we have. And I think it's going to make a real difference in terms of the companies and the portfolio and the technologies that we'll be able to bring to market.
So if somebody was an entrepreneur in your area there, how would they get connected with you? Just go to the website, and is there a way of connecting to seeing about how they can get involved in the hub?
Yeah, so I'm very reactive on LinkedIn. I try and answer everyone, even if it's not relevant, just to tell them it's not relevant, thank you. But otherwise, in the Israeli ecosystem, we are connected through WhatsApp, and people know how to reach. And sure, through the website, people can read a bit more about the activities and see where they connect.
Is there a process for joining the hub, or from becoming a member, or getting involved in a way? If they're an entrepreneur, they make application, or tell me how that works.
No, so for application for the funding, it's through the fund. To join the Bridge Hub, there's a mailing list. You can go online, thebridgehub.co. and just add yourself to the mailing list so you can be aware of everything that we do. Very useful.
So if there's cycles of, funding grants, or if there's events that they can participate in, learn more, that would be good. Cool.
Sure. Yeah. And on social media, obviously on Twitter and LinkedIn, everything is posted as well.
We'll drop all that into the section below the interview when it gets to frontrunnersinnovate.com. So one more question. We do know that you're looking for some capital for some projects that you've got going on. Are there other types of resources, human beings, that you're looking for? If that may be partners, more strategic partners, maybe there could be some collaborators, there could be some other entrepreneurial types that you're looking for. Tell me.
Sure. So one thing that Israel is very, very strong at, and it's a huge benefit for the ecosystem, is collaboration. And I always say that collaboration is really the key for innovation. And I'm open for collaboration. It doesn't have to be immediately on a commercial basis. If someone needs something, they can reach out. The world is round. There's always, a way to reconnect later on. So that's really my philosophy, always supporting whoever needs something that I can contribute to. But definitely for the fund, we're looking for strategic partners. So obviously investors, but if these are investors from those sectors, that will be very strategic for the portfolio companies. And the other thing that we do is that we provide an access to the Israeli ecosystem in every sector. If you're looking for a technology, you're looking to solve a challenge that you have in your business, reach out to us. We can do the research on the technologies that are available in Israel. So you can, be exposed to those technology, but also benchmark with other things that you're looking at. And we are representing in Israel a number of multinational companies that are looking for this access. So yeah, I would say strategic partners, investors for the fund, and anyone that needs to solve some technological challenges that we might be able to find the right solution for.
If we had, say, if there is somebody that's watching this that is a tech entrepreneur and is at the level where they were looking for the right place around the world to begin manufacture and be a part of maybe a tech hub somewhere that would help with other types of resources, are you a resource for that?
Sure. There's actually a very good database of all the different incubators, accelerators around the world. Which was compiled by the Startup Nation Israel Finder. And it actually gives you all the data about the different hubs, what they give you, what area they focus on, how long, if there's a program, how long does the program last for. So I can easily work with that entrepreneur to understand what's the best hub for them.
Okay. Yeah. All right, well, good. You're somebody that everybody needs to know. So thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you for caring enough to put all your heart and soul into something so important, and to be broad-minded enough to be able to take in all different types of spaces, impact spaces, because that's what it's going to take. And in that case, you also have to have the network that supports that. So it also has to be diverse and global. So I understand that. So thank you for all that you're doing. If you're watching this on YouTube, we'll drop in a website link below if you want to know more and have more connection with Ethy. Then you're going to find at frontrunnersinnovate.com, you're going to find more links of her social, that sort of thing. And hope that you have an opportunity to see this in its entirety and visit with her on LinkedIn or some other place that you can connect with her. Clearly on WhatsApp. So as she said. So thank you once again. I appreciate it. And thanks for all the advice and the information.
Thank you very much, Mary. It's a pleasure.
We'll look forward to reconnecting down the road, see how things are going with the Bridge Hub. Take care.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.